Hey guys, welcome to another Kamikaze creation video. Working on the UC today. I'm going to look at a few things because that supercharger kit's coming. Very excited. I thought I'd better finish off the fuel system, and I have received a few things. I've got the braided line. It's 6AN, and the hole in a 6AN is about 8mm, and it came with a whole heap of AN fittings. These were pretty cool, anodized red and black. And it's basically like a shark tooth fitting. They squash on and thread it in the other end. So there's a whole box of them there, heaps of different fittings. I'm still waiting on the AN fittings to go into the actual tank and to screw into the fuel pump. So they should be here hopefully tomorrow. Today I'm going to run out the fuel line, just check where they run to and make sure I've got the right line. There's a fuel and a breather line. Fit the carpet and the tank and get it all bolted in, and get the fuel pump bolted in, and look at the wiring, how I'm going to wire it up. But anyway, we'll get into it. I'm just looking at running the fuel line and return lining up into the boot. So this is my main fuel line here that went into the fuel pump, and I'm pretty sure this is the return line, but I'm going to chase those through to the front of the car and just prove that that's right for hooking them up. But I'm just going to run them in, I think, along that rail and up into the wheel well cavity here, and bring them up into the car so I can hook them up to the new Holley red fuel pump. While I was doing this, one of the issues having water in your boot, the seals on the boot lid can leak, but also that it can be the rear tail light seals, and that's a really good hint. Thanks, I can't quite remember who suggested that, but thanks for that suggesting, and I will have a look at that. But if you do get water into the boot, and I hadn't really found these, I knew they were there, but until I got in under the car and got rid of the old fuel tank, these little holes run from that that little well that you've got in the boot off to the side of the boot, and this comes from, you know, Holden factory. That's what they look like, and mine are actually gummed up with like a filler, like a black goop, probably some sort of rust protection type goop, but they were completely blocked up, and not until I got under the car and got rid of the fuel tank did I find them. So both sides I've cleaned them out, and they now will vent down. So if I do get any water in, the main thing is it gets in and drains out. So good little find. So I've mounted up the red Holley fuel pump onto the little aluminium bracket I've got. It's got a little bit of flex in it, but I think once the lines are in there, it's going to give it a little bit of triangulation for mounting, and I think it'll be okay, nice and solid. So I just got to find some power. That's just earth. Got to find a positive power. I'm thinking about a lighting circuit, but have to check that out. I'm not much of an electrician, but I'll work that out. So this is my fuel line running up to the carby, and I've just cut a little bit off it, and I'm going to redirect it up into that hole. That's where the fuel sender unit used to come through, and this little grommet fits up into there. It was for the sender unit, and I've opened the hole out a little bit, and I'll run the fuel line up through that into the boot area. I was going to run it down through here, but realizing that the tyres there and anything that's thrown up, it's in the way to get damage, so I'm going to keep it up basically out of the way where it was before. So that fits in there really well. I'm just going to try the boot lining board back in there, make sure, because most of this area over here has got a fair bit of clearance. It seems to set on this center point. So I'll sit that board in and make sure that it's not squashing the fuel line. So that all seems to work really well. The fuel pump's going to be mounted over here. That's going to be the fuel out, and the rest of it will come from the tank. So there's the new fuel line. I've pushed it over about 6 inches of that pipe and used 2 hose clamps on it. It's only running 7 psi, so it should be all good. So I just got to refit that grommet up in here, and it's all looking good. The return line goes up to the carbon canister, which is not doing anything. So at this stage, I think I'll just blank it off. This is the fuel line, finished mounted in to the boot. I'll have to trim that up. I've bolted it through the wheel well. I've got some little stainless 5mm bolts, and I've got a nylock nut on the back side of that. There's plenty of clearance on the tyre, not going to hit anything. So that's the fuel line coming in. I'm just about to start fitting up the fuel cell to the ply base plate. This is the fuel cell sitting on the base plate, and I'm just about to position and mount the pump so that fuel line will come down here. This is the outlet, this is the inlet, and I've got to wire up again, find a positive for that fuel pump. I think the brake light could be a line to take off and go onto that, but I'll find that out soon. As I said, I'm not very good at electrical work. Here's the outlets for the fuel cell. I'm waiting on my AN fittings to come for them, and I've also got to block off these ones up here. One will be for the rollover one-way valve, which will come back down through the boot floor. I've got the fuel pump wired up now. I end up running a new ignition wire from the fuse block back up to the back of the car, so when I turn the key on and it gets power, the pump starts coming on. I might isolate that with a switch. So I've run those wires in through the back seat, and I've got the tank reasonably solid in there, and the fuel pump sitting down inside there. I took the back seat out to get that wire in, and it runs down along the sill plate and in along there, up through the kick panel, and that's that blue wire. I've just dropped my ignition fuse block out, and I might put a switch in there to isolate the pump if I need to. It's been a really successful day. Enjoyed working on the old girl and made some good progress. The fuel lines are looking really good. I've got that main fuel now coming up into the boot, which is excellent. When those AN fittings get here, I can adapt the fuel line into the outlet side of the pump, and then most of the rest of it will run with this braided fuel line inside the boot, so it looks nice and tidy. The tank's sitting in there reasonably secure. 2 bolts adjust through the ply on the outer edge, and the 2 inner bolts will go through the tank and through the boot and fasten it to the car. And I'm also going to bolt the ply down over near the wheel well on the other side, so everything's in there solid and won't move under braking, which is really good. The fuel pump sitting on that aluminium mount, having a little bit of movement in it, I think is good, rather than being stiff. It's basically sitting on that base plate and screwed in there. So that's looking really nice and tidy, and the wiring worked out absolutely brilliantly. Bit of a hassle taking all of those sills off and the back seat out, just get one wire through, but now it's done. So just waiting on those other fittings to come up. If you like what I'm doing, keep following what I'm doing. Remember that supercharger kit's coming soon, and there'll be lots of videos coming out progressing through to that. I'm sure it's not going to be smooth sailing, but it will get there. It will work, and Shane Barnett from Barnett Performance Engineering, he's on side. He said until it's running, he's there for me and will help me through the process. So when those fittings come, I'll fit them up and get the tank in complete and the fuel running, and I'll be able to drive it again until I fit up that supercharger. Make sure you subscribe.